we're so accustomed to seeing our reflection and knowing that it's us, but we certainly aren't. We're less likely able to kind of separate from self-talk as opposed to like coaching or whatever when it's just us in our heads with no reflection.
The mirror will most certainly show you what's visible, but not necessarily what's valuable. You have to keep looking and looking and looking and looking.
Mental health, emotional health, physical health, deeper understanding, actionable takeaways to improve your quality of life. We're the Level Up guys.
Even guys can have emotionally literate conversations, and we're the guys that are going to prove it.
What's up, you guys? We are back for another episode of the Level Up guys. My name is Billy. I'm here with my best friend, Jarrett. Today, we're talking about mirrors, reflections, mirrors. I'm not even sure how mirrors are made. We'll have to look up that later. As you guys know, Jarrett is a mental health professional. He's a therapist. He loves to say he's a therapist that's in therapy, loves the practice of it. I own a yoga and Pilates studio down in North Carolina on the coach, and we do hot yoga and Pilates. And the first thing you'll notice when you walk into the studio, the practice room, is this floor to ceiling mirrors. My practice room is 2,000 square feet, and 2 out of the 4 walls are covered with mirrors. It's pretty obvious when you walk in that the first reason why we would use mirrors in a yoga practice is so you can see yourself and you can self-correct your alignment or your lack thereof. You can adjust the levelness of your shoulders and see yourself. However, my experience witnessing people in a hot room, being vulnerable in there and having mirrors, and I know this was the same for me. When you get started, it's kind of hard to look at yourself in the mirrors and see your reflection. And I don't mean, looking yourself in the eye. That's a whole different level. But even like seeing like kind of peripherally in your silhouette, all of that, it can be really challenging sometimes. So I think the mirrors, beyond technique and form and, being really accurate with that, I think there's an evolution to be had from ego to acceptance. Because after a while, what maybe keeps us from looking in the mirror might be our ego. And there comes a point where there's an acceptance of who you are and what you look like. And this is what I got to work with. And you got to love yourself like that.
If I can jump in, that really resonates with me for the times that I have done hot yoga occasionally with you. And I've never done Pilates, but maybe one day. But what's coming to mind for me is, because I never got deep into the practice, I often was using the mirror to watch myself fail, over and over in terms of what the position was either meant to look like or looking around at the other people was oftentimes how I figured out whether I was even doing or what I was supposed to do. And so using the mirror, it for me in the beginning stages wasn't even really about correcting the postures. It was more about like having to come to terms with like, you're not good at this yet. Kind of, so that was like part of where yoga really challenged me, having, those floor to ceiling mirrors. And, not only am I seeing my reflection, I'm seeing the reflection of the class. Right. And yeah, so I don't know, as a yoga instructor, do you find that is people's experiences a lot at the beginning?
Yes, very much. And in fact, there's 2 primary reasons why we have mirrors, and that is the second reason, and it's the most important reason. And here's why. Let's just say that you and I were taking a yoga class, we were next to each other. And if you kind of looked over and you saw like it really wasn't my day, if I was kind of suffering or struggling and, what would you say to me, either out loud or in your brain? Like you probably wouldn't criticize me.
No. Yeah. Yeah. Right. I would probably, and like if I kind of saw you struggling as if you were wanting support or something like that, I'd probably say something like keep at it. Like you got, you'll get it. Or like, I saw you nailing this last time, like hang in there, like probably more encouraging, like perseverance type of messages.
Yeah, so that nailed it. And that's the exact philosophy. If you saw me struggling and you would talk to me like that, do we have the capability to see ourselves struggle and talk to us like that? Because you would never say to me, man, you suck at yoga. This is probably not for you. Like, you look ridiculous right now. I don't even know why you're here. You should probably take up like pickleball. You would never say that. You'd say, hey, it's no big deal. You can always try it again tomorrow. Like, you don't have to be like gold medal yoga people, you know, which
right. Like, or even like you showed up today. Like, that's another big one, right? Like
100%. Yeah. Yeah. So it's that, can we look in the mirrors and eventually evolve to a point where we say like, hey, you're doing great. You know, you're a beautiful human being and you're doing the best with what you got. Probably shouldn't have had that, you know, fajita before class or whatever, you know, but, you know,
but you were hungry. So, you know,
yeah, but going from that, you know, the critical analysis of everything we're doing wrong and how everybody else seems to be succeeding to talking to ourselves with an internal dialogue that's more reflective of how we might talk to our friend that's next to us.
That's really interesting. And it makes sense how, you know, the mirror, like providing the reflection. Yes, you know, we're so accustomed to seeing our reflection and knowing that it's us, but we certainly aren't, we're less likely able to kind of separate from self-talk as opposed to like coaching or whatever, when it's just us in our heads with, you know, no reflection. So that, I like that. That's a really nice.
Yeah, the mirror will most certainly show you what's visible, but not necessarily what's valuable.
Say that again.
Like the mirror will definitely show you what's visible, but not necessarily what's valuable. You have to keep looking and looking and looking and looking. When I first started taking hot yoga, I fell in love with it immediately. And I would take 6 to 8 classes a week. I was there all the time. And it took me about a year until I was confident enough to take my shirt off in class. You know, and this is hot yoga. So if you're wearing a shirt, all you're really doing is creating more laundry for yourself. You know, it's much more comfortable. And if you can see your body, you know, back to that alignment stuff, like you can have a better chance of aligning yourself. You can really see your physical self. But it took me a year of practicing daily to get to the point where I'm like, all right, these are just a bunch of normal people. I'm just a normal person. This big scar that I have on my stomach that I was kind of like shy about, nobody cares. You know, I can be confident and, you know, and I see this in my students. They'll practice and practice and practice, you know, and one day the tank top will come off and you have got a sports bra on and you're okay with your belly, or you went from wearing like the big pants, now you're wearing like leggings. And and I often will not mention it, but I notice like that's a big evolution in self-acceptance.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
The idea of a mirror will show you what's visible but not what's valuable makes me think of a quote that I stumbled upon about mirrors. It's by this guy Graham McNeil, and he says, "What better mirror is there than the face of an old friend? Only those we love have the power to show us our true selves." And so it made me think that, like, if we're taking that as true, in a mirror, we actually only see our true selves when we see ourselves with love and as an old friend, right? Not when we see ourselves as a critical, you know, whatever. Like then we are not seeing our true self. We're seeing maybe what's visible, but not what's valuable, right? And not what's like, and I think what's valuable is probably at the heart of what feels true about that for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
As great as the tool as a mirror is in yoga class, it can also be a detriment. In my style of yoga, so we do a 1-hour hot Bikram yoga class, and the first half hour is standing, so you're seeing yourself in the mirror, and the second half of the hour is on the floor, either kneeling or lying. So you're not really using the mirrors in the second half of the class. And I'll often say, you know, the first part of classes is this warm up where you can like see yourself, and kind of the real yoga practice begins on the floor when you can't see it. Now you have to feel it. Now you have to really create that mind-body connection, because using the mirrors specifically can ultimately lead to a lack of proprioception or lack of body awareness.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, proprioception is a big benefit you can get from practicing yoga or doing any sort of a physical activity.
And if I remember correctly, that's the term for like how we feel our bodies in space, like
how aware we are. Yeah.
We
so
are.
if you were to close your eyes,
Yeah,
and take your index finger and touch your nose,
mm-hmm.
that's the awareness of where your finger is in space and where your nose is.
Got it. Yeah.
Right. And if you look in the mirror, you get it's right there. You can see it. Yeah. So proprioception is the awareness of our physical self and our immediate surroundings. And then interoception is the awareness of the internal. Like, are we feeling hungry or stressed or hot or tired? Or
heart beating fast, beating slow, stuff like that.
Exactly right. Yeah. That kind of external awareness and then the internal awareness as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it makes sense how it starts kind of with the standing and being able to use mirrors, and then almost ask for a shift to bring it more, bring the awareness with you kind of as you move to the floor mat.
Right. Exactly right. Yeah. And I've had students, and this could have very easily been me if I wasn't so passionate, wanted to ultimately become, a yoga teacher and a studio owner. I still have students where, they'll be in a position and they're looking at the floor. Even though there might be a very clear instruction say, hey, focus one spot in the mirror, like your eyes are one of the principal tools of balance, right? If you want to be able to balance on one leg, oftentimes there'll be some sort of a cue, hey, focus on one spot, don't blink your eyes.
Yeah.
And since we've been like balancing our whole entire life with our head up here, there's very little advantage to suddenly looking down to the floor, thinking that's going to help you balance,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That even just made me think, this is not even related, but like that idea of looking down just reminded me of like, this is such a Jarrett tangent. But like we're looking down in our phones, not finding balance in life at all. Right. Like, so anyways, I just had to get that out of the way. It was in my brain. But bringing it back to
hold on, let me rant with you though for a second.
Okay, do it.
Let's take the side quest like we do. Because my dad used to tell me when I was a kid, way before cell phones, like I'd be looking down at my feet. He would say, son, get your chin up. 90% of life is up here. There's nothing's gonna help you down there. Like this is where it exists. It's up here. Like if you're walking down, like don't be just staring at your feet. Most of life exists like up here, looking around.
Yeah, that's true, right? Like if we're looking down, like we are really limiting our field of view. So like it's not only a nice phrase, but it's actually accurate that like life, 90 whatever percent is actually up, where you're able to see the world as opposed to see a circle of the floor or whatever.
Yeah. And then back to the yoga practice. I mean, having that, the two types of real vision we can have our like open peripheral vision, and we can have our foveal vision. When I do teacher trainings, I kind of explain it like this. Like when I'm teaching class, like I mentioned, I have a really big space. So there might be like 30 people over there and 30 people over there. Well, I have to have this like peripheral vision, which is a very like open vision energetically, like you can give and receive energy. How am I supposed to be able to kind of see everybody and feel everybody at the same time? Versus a peripheral vision, which is kind of like looking through a straw. Like if you were to put your headphones on and like play a video game and you were super into it, you would have no idea what's going on around you. Yeah. And so when we're new students and we're looking in the mirror for the first time, it's all this peripheral vision. Like you're seeing the people over there and the people over there and all that. And as you practice and practice and practice and practice and practice, you end up, your focus is on like one spot. One spot. I have a habit where I'll turn my necklace around to where that little clasp is.
Oh yeah.
And when I have to focus one spot, I focus on that thing. And
for all the listeners, he just turned his necklace around to reveal the clasp.
I did, right. And if I lose this necklace, my career is over. But I try to eliminate as much as I can of that like peripheral to really have that focus and that concentration. So the mirror at first can kind of be a distraction.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, so one of the things that comes to mind, and I guess this could go either way, is like, how we can often tell, like when we're with somebody, we can tell by their facial expression, their even body posture, like how they're like we could probably label or name how they're feeling before they could potentially,
Yeah.
right? Like our bodies show it first
Yeah.
sometimes. Um, so that what that makes me think of is like if somebody is, doing yoga or whatever, and like maybe struggling with like negative self-talk about and judgment or something like that, chances are there's some part of their body that's contracted, or that like their facial expression might be like their brow might be furrowed, or something about their jaw. They might like feel a tense jaw, but like those things are just part of our body, and like generally not meant to be part of our conscious awareness, right? Like our conscious awareness is only about 3 to 5% of what's going on each day for us. Like it's particularly all of the body stuff is mostly governed by the 95 to 97% of subconscious. But having a mirror, like if I was seeing myself, I might also be able to notice like, oh, I'm furrowing my brow, or like, my jaw's really tense, and then like check in with myself and be curious about, oh, what was just my thought process? Wasn't being very kind to myself. Let's reset, or something along those lines.
Yeah. That's one of the tricks of really getting the benefits of a yoga practice or any physical modality that's designed to improve your quality of life is taking with you off the mat. For example, people will walk into the studio like all kind of hunched over and bummed out, and then they get on their mat and they're like, oh shit. Then they stand up and their shoulders are level and their chest is up, and then class is over. They're like, all right, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's a constant reminder of being like, hey, what we do on the mat as you see yourself, like if you stand up and your chest is up and your shoulders relaxed and you're, subtly engaging like our postural muscles, like that's designed to be able to like take it with you off of the mat.
Yeah. This whole idea of mirroring also brings to mind for me, like as you know, I work, a lot of my earlier career was working a lot with kids, and then started to be with parents, and now is, a combination of adults, parents, families, kids, things like that. But so part of where my mind, and also being a dad of a 2-year-old at this point, right? Some of trying to be a good dad research, and it's all fresh for me. So what's coming up for me is this parenting and child development idea that children actually require emotional mirroring from their parents for healthy development. And also particularly to parent mirroring of a child's emotions is also kind of the first step to teaching them healthy non-defense mechanism regulation, right? Like if this doesn't happen, then our nervous system is going to regulate us, but it's going to be through a stress response, right? It's going to be either shut it all down, right, so that I don't have to feel it. That will present as regulation, but it's going to cost you later in life when you start shutting down, anytime there's stress, or flight, right? Like kind of get out of the situation, or fight, all of those things. So like, we don't want that for our kids necessarily if we don't have to pass it on. So, co-regulation is what's actually needed for healthy regulating. And that means that the parent is like mirroring first their child's emotion of like, you're really sad. Oh, I get it. Like your sadness makes sense here. And like even making their face look sad, and then start to mirror, like taking deep breaths. And then the child starts to do that naturally because of mirror neurons, they're called.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we've talked about that before. And starting to engage in that process, but from the starting point of mirroring the dysregulated emotion in a calm way, like that's actually how you create healthy regulation. Because imagine if like a child was really sad or upset or whatever, and a parent, or even imagine a friend was doing this, like you're expressing your sadness or whatever, and if the friend were just looking back at you smiling, right? That dissonance between it, like you feel isolated and not, and kind of alone, which then creates shame, which then creates even more dysregulation, right? And then at that point, our stress response regulation defense mechanisms have to step in, right?
Yep.
So there's this other piece that comes to mind about and it goes even beyond the emotional mirroring. So like parent mirroring and kind of reflection to children, something I'm passionate about, as you can probably tell. Like it can even be verbal, right? Or even physical. Like as a child is learning new skills, like you're kind of doing it with them. And when children get this, like parental mirroring in a tuned way, in an attuned way, it actually starts to create the kid's ability to conceptualize within themselves, like I am real, my feelings are real, right? Like because think about it, like if how else would they know that they're being seen, right? If unless in their world they're like kind of limited perception and awareness of that they exist, right? Like outside, because they can, when they're even really young, they'll see themselves in a mirror and not know that it's them until a certain phase of development. But like all of that, when that happens, it's not just my feelings are real, I can be seen. It's like I'm worthy of being seen as I am, right? And that's, I mean, what a gift to give a kid. And, so many, I feel like so much of the time we don't recognize that that's kind of what's at stake.
Yeah, it seems to translate very much into adulthood too.
Yeah.
I know, like when I train my front desk staff, you're familiar with the concept of mirroring and matching.
Mm-hmm.
I know for a fact that most people, including myself, probably you, if we were going to go like to a group fitness class, we might be a little bit nervous.
Sure.
The name of my studio is Rebel Hot Yoga and Pilates. Like it's kind of edgy. The name of the Pilates class is Inferno. Like if you're going to Inferno at Rebel, like this group class, you might be. So we try to make sure that as soon as somebody walks in the front door, we try to have an environment where people can be like as calm and relaxed and like no anxiety, like no big deal. So that mirroring and matching is a really beautiful way for us to connect to that 95% of the subconscious, where all our values and our beliefs and all of that is held. Like, for example, if I'm sitting behind the front desk and somebody walks in, I'll stand up because you're standing up, right? I want to create a rapport. If you walked in and you were like, hey, my name is Jarrett. I just came, I heard about you guys. I wanted to do a class. I try to match your energy, right? And if you were like, what's up, man? I'm so excited to be here. I saw you guys 5-star reviews. Like, I'm so excited. I'd be trying to match your energy in that thing. Because if you came in kind of like quiet a little bit and talking down, if I came in at 1,000 miles an hour, there's like a disconnect.
Right.
And then if like I'm in the business of helping people, so I can help you in the lobby, like feel confident and calm and relaxed and no anxiety. It's
well,
just
even so that's just making me think back to the idea of like feeling seen, right? Like when if the person is kind of presenting as timid because maybe they're anxious or whatever, you presenting as calm but kind of lower energy and slower paced speech and motion and stuff like that, kind of meeting them. I imagine that there, part of what happens there, even if their anxiety isn't diminished or lessened about the class, they're like they're feeling seen in their anxiety, in their kind of timidness, because of the nonverbals and maybe verbals that you are portraying. And you're right to say that that's the way that we kind of tap into these subconscious pieces, because I mean the subconscious, the language of the subconscious is imagery and emotion, right? It's not actual language, it's not words. And so the nonverbals are going to be the primary thing that the subconscious is relying on in a moment like that, and in general outside of this situation, to form a belief or to associate to other beliefs that are kind of present there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, your example of, if I was sharing something with you that was maybe sad or emotional and you were looking at me smiling, there would be a disconnect.
Yeah.
I think that's the proper use of like loving, mirror, and matching. Because you can also use it as a used car salesman and be a jerk and like try to get something out of someone. But if you're doing it to like improve connections and improve relationships, and help people, it could be a really valuable tool. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm.
What I'm curious, so one, and also in thinking about this episode, I was thinking about like like people's projections, like using and just the idea of people seeing themselves in other people, or even refusing to. But this idea of how the people that we really choose to surround ourselves with or choose to be a part of our life are people who are going to um, that we psychologically see an ability to project ourselves into. Otherwise, we're not attracted to them. We're not, engaged by them or whatever. We might have an acquaintance relationship or a business, type of thing. But the people who we vibe with are people that have this feature to them. And I'm wondering, and I can say more about it, but I'm just curious, like, in kind of the yoga realm, whether it's in the actual space doing yoga or in the philosophy of it, what is like that idea of kind of seeing ourselves in others and kind of projecting and reflection? Does that like bring anything up for you?
Well, I mean, I have a big advantage because I've been teaching for well over a decade, owned a studio. It'll be 10 years in a couple of months here. Had a bunch of ayahuasca trips under my belt. So I had like a revelation about that.
Future episodes.
Yeah, I mean, like yoga, let's say yoga is this big umbrella, and underneath it, there's all sorts of styles, all sorts of stuff. Like if your friend were like, Jared, you should try yoga. Like you have 1,000 options of like different things, different teachers, different modalities. And some would really support that philosophy of seeing ourselves and others and connectivity. And it'd be very easy as a yoga teacher to not create that environment.
Can you say more about that?
For example, let's say that I was extremely flexible as a yoga practitioner. It would be quite possible that I could teach my class in that manner. Teaching to my own practice is what it's called.
I see.
So that the postures that I would choose and the length of them and the intensity in which we're doing them would be from a basis of like what I'm good at. I'm really fortunate because the style of yoga that I teach is accessible and inclusive to any level of ability. Even Pilates class. We have a 74-year-old is our elder stateswoman of the studio. Her name is Anne Marie. She's like everybody's grandmother. She comes. Like she came to yoga class the other night and she was late. And so she missed class. So she waited outside for an hour because she wanted to take Pilates. And this is hot Pilates. There's like EDM playing. There's like DJ lights. And she's an 84-year-old. And then next to her was Caroline, who's a yoga teacher for me. She manages the studio. And she's pregnant. She's in her 3rd trimester. So I'm looking over there saying, I got a pregnant woman. I got an 84-year-old. I got an old guy over here. There's a bunch of college chicks up there, a bunch of dudes in the back. So I'm really fortunate because I can look around the room and be like, oh, yeah, that's a little bit of me. This is a little bit of me. We're all connected in this. Yeah, I chose when I started the studio not to have levels. So if you came and you said, I've never really done it before, I never want to say, okay, you got to go to the beginner's class.
Yeah.
Here's this advanced class that you're not ready for yet. Like if you see a class in the schedule at my studio, you can come. And she can come and he can come and they can come. Oh, you get a 6-year-old, they can come. You're 84, you can come. Anybody can come. So it enhances, I think, that opportunity to see the connectivity between people.
Yeah.
And I try really hard not to teach to my own body or my own level of, mobility or strength or flexibility. If I can concentrate really well, or I'm super determined or very disciplined, it doesn't really matter what I can do. I tend to be a very disciplined person in my practice, and I want to offer that to people, but I don't want to be like, you need to be disciplined like me, unless you're a professional yoga teacher and that's all you do, and you own a studio and that's your career and your life. But I'm the only one in the room who has that,
Yeah. Have you had any experiences where, like, I don't know, maybe, well, so here might be an example. Like, well, here's two examples that I have questions about. One would be like a guy who comes in with chronic back pain, right? Like, how, is it possible to use this natural, in almost inherent, thing that humans do of seeing themselves in others, like, is there a way that could be used, because that would be somebody who resonates with you, or could, like, yeah. So I'm not exactly sure what my question is, but that's one example. But then another example would be like, if you're training teachers or something like that, have you ever trained a teacher where you saw like or either saw or like felt like you saw like some spark of yourself in them as like you were when you were a teacher or something like that?
Yeah. And as I mentioned, ayahuasca experience really enhanced that capacity to see. I often think I have maybe the only career in the world, or maybe there's a couple I haven't thought of. One of the only careers in the world where if I get injured in my body, it makes me better at my work. It makes me better at my craft. So you're 100% right. Like, I started hot yoga because of a failed back surgery. So if a fella with low back pain comes in, like, I know, I can feel that. I've also torn my meniscus. So if you come in with that, I've also jacked up my shoulder and my wrists, and I fell off my motorcycle and I hurt this and I hurt that. And now I got to practice with a torn meniscus. And after 6 weeks, like, I'm not going to be able to do what I have to, like, develop my compassion, better understanding of the postures, the asanas, how to moderate. So that if somebody comes in, I'm like, oh yeah, I know, I feel you. I know exactly. I've been so dehydrated, like crazy headaches. Oh, I know. I feel you. Right. And I feel like I can help people better. It also helps me through injuries. So, if I strain my wrist and I'm going to take a class, it gives me a lot of compassion for people who come in who might have strained wrists.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, what you're talking to is like, almost a shortcut access to empathy. It sounds like, in a way.
Yeah, directly.
Yeah. And empathy, not in the way that, has like necessarily an agenda for anybody, but just, understands their experience and, can kind of offer, as you said, like offer that compassion. The other thing that just came to mind is you said, you might be one of the only career paths or fields that, when you get injured, it has the capacity to make you better at your work, right? Better in your craft. And I was thinking about that through the lens of being a therapist. And actually, I feel like some of the best relationship coaches or, therapists for, any given thing are people who have been in therapy or been, doing the work for themselves, but then approach, somebody else who's trying to do that work with like a soft touch and just kind of, compassion, with like this knowledge that like, the reason that I got to where I am now is not because somebody, thrust me in the right direction, right? It's because like I had to be my own hero in a way. And, it's nice to have people walking the path with you, whether that's a therapist or a friend or a partner, whatever. But yeah, like sometimes that empathy that doesn't have an agenda, that just is, uses like a soft touch, I don't know why my mind went there with it, but yeah, I feel like in therapy too, but maybe it's not physical wounding and maybe it's like emotional wounding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if one were to go through a traumatic divorce and then you learn your lessons and you go through that and you're trying to help someone who goes through that shared experience, it's invaluable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then as far as being able to like see myself in other teachers, I mean, that's tricky because there's so many different modalities and so many different like ways of doing. I tell my teachers all the time, like the only reason that I'm the senior teacher at the studio, the only reason I'm the studio owner is one, I started before you. I've been doing this for years and you just happen to start later in your life. And I was in a position in my life where, you know, I don't have family, I don't have kids, I don't have another job. You know, I had a mortgage at the time, but I don't anymore. You know, I can sleep on the floor in the back of the studio to pay the bills if I need to. Like, that's a big advantage that I might have. But the primary difference is I've just been doing it longer. You know, so as you're stumbling with your words and you don't know what to say and you're forgetting people's names, like I was 100% that. It was just a while ago. And you practice and you practice and you practice and you get better at it, you know?
Yeah.
But then it's easy to also have compassion for the teachers. Like, you know, somebody said one time, and this was related to artists and music, like the most forgiving people to witness your art are people who do it too. Like back in the day, if we were on stage playing, right, and you're up there singing, playing your acoustic guitar, if you hit a wrong chord, you know, 99% of the audience would be like, this guy, he sucks. What's going on? How come he didn't do the thing? But the guitar player in the crowd would be like, you don't have any idea how hard it is to do what he's doing. He's trying to do all this stuff. He would be like, man, the guy's doing great. Right? Like I have, you know, the students might look at a teacher like stumbling through their words, like, what's wrong with them? But I'm like, you have no idea. Like I'm in the arena. I know how hard it is to, you know, talk for an hour, like go talk for an hour. It's really hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not only that, just like in front of people, right? Like talk for an hour in front of people. Yeah.
I do remember, though, I had a teacher when I was coming up. Before I was a teacher, one of my awesome influences, it was this young lady, and awesome teacher, owned a studio, and I think she was like 22 or 23 at the time. Like awesome, like female entrepreneur, crushing it, doing great. However, she had never had an injury in her life. Like her back felt great. She ran the marathon every year, the Boston Marathon. Yeah. And so there was part of me when I was taking class, I'm like, I don't really know if you know. I don't like, it's hard for me to like lay here. It's hard for me to stand here. It's hard for me to like move this way because I'm in agony. Like there is something to be said for, you know, the relatability through, you've been through some trauma, you've been through some shit, you've been through some stuff.
Yeah.
You know, but I was the same way. If I was teaching yoga at 22, like, yeah, I'm bulletproof. I got no injuries at all. And so that if a 50-year-old man walked in, you know, with bad hips, I don't know if I could fully get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, right. Or like, right. Not fully get it. Like you could kind of have, you know, maybe if you had somebody to like kind of coach you through, you're not going to fully be able to understand this. And so here's what you can do to do your best to, you know, resonate with them or whatever.
Yeah.
Then there's value there, but it's like, practicing something or like it's like performing something without just like it coming from an inherent place of knowing.
Right. Through my mentorship after my teacher training, my teacher would often have me practice as if. So let's just say walking into the studio, you rolled your ankle. And so I would get on my mat and she would be teaching and she would teach me, how do you practice with a sprained ankle? You know, I get a bursa sac thing and I can't lift my arm up. I get frozen shoulder. Like, how do you practice doing that? We actually talked about this at the studio the other day because Caroline that I mentioned, who's in her 3rd trimester, she's beautiful, got this beautiful belly. And I was like, hey, we should get one of those things that men wear. You know, the
oh, yeah.
Right? Like I would love like to take class and do it in like a really loving, respectful way. Where you're like, experience what you're experiencing.
Yeah.
Because I learned, teaching pregnancy yoga by practicing pregnancy yoga, but I never had I had to imagine
Yeah.
that I had a big belly. I thought it'd be
Right.
super cool. And that would enhance my, my empathy for what that feels like to suddenly put like a 20-pound backpack on the front. And you're going to walk around all day and your back hurts and your hips hurt and your ankles are swollen. And
yeah, that's an interesting idea, right? Like kind of offering, like creating in yourself the mirror of somebody, who you might not be able to get there by just imagining.
yeah, right. Like what's the truth of the experience?
Yeah. The kind of thing that I found really interesting about this idea of like projection with, and using and having other people naturally be our mirrors. This is because of my interest and experience for my own therapy of like psychoanalysis. They talk a lot about like protective mechanisms and defense mechanisms. It's the lie on a couch and facing away from your therapist, like doing, you basically are the one talking more than your therapist, 3 to 4 times a week. That was like my real delving into self. And now I'm doing a different one, but because of my interest and experience in that, I really find so fascinating learning about defense mechanisms and protective mechanisms. And the one with projection. So, and this is, this shows up in our closest relationships, really. People who are friends that we're close with, people who we're in a romantic relationship with, our family members, people that we really choose to surround ourselves with. So this is the interesting part. So we place the parts of ourself that we're uncomfortable with. So the parts of ourself that we don't like or that we take issue with, maybe for reasons that aren't ours inherently, maybe parent messaging or societal messaging or whatever. But for those parts that we're uncomfortable with, we project them into others, or we find them in others, or we choose others who we subconsciously pick up will demonstrate those qualities, and then try to manage, and then we try to manage and control them in the other person. So part of that is like it feels safer at a distance, right? But I think the kind of beautiful part of it, because all that doesn't sound great, but to me there's a beautiful part of it, to bring it back around, which is that tendency comes from this well-intentioned wish to identify and heal this part of ourself, but ultimately we can't do it in the other person, right? It's like filling a bucket with a big hole in it. Like that bucket will never be full if we just keep trying to manage it, in our through our projections and control it outside of ourselves. But if it's something that we actually want to change, we actually can use others to as our mirror, to indicate to us what are the parts of myself that I'm uncomfortable with that are actually pointing me to like asking for healing, or what are the parts of me that are still carrying pain, because I'm likely to see it in you before I see it in me.
Wow.
Isn't that like a beautiful like way to like know what parts of ourself to heal and to focus on by having others be like function as a reflection?
Yeah. Wow. You ever heard of skinny mirrors?
The mirrors that like make you look thinner, right?
Yeah. Well, it made me think about what you just said, because if you're looking at someone, like it's an accurate representation, hopefully, of like, an accurate representation. It was actually there was some sort of a study done, I think it was in Sweden at a lingerie store, where they put the skinny mirrors out. Skinny mirrors, for those of you guys listening or watching, if you don't know, mirrors designed to alter your shape. Like if you have a long mirror and you kind of lean it back, you're gonna look leaner and taller, and a certain curvature might make you a little bit different. But it increased sales at their store like really dramatically, based on this lie This is
Yeah.
not what you look like at all. You know, you think,
Mm.
oh, I look great. This is an amazing thing. It's like, it's not the reflection. It's not the proper reflection. So here's my question. If you
Yeah.
have a skinny mirror that's giving you improper feedback,
Yeah.
can that happen with a human being? Going back to what you just said.
Yeah. I would say yes, if that person is highlighting a part of ourself that we already have some fear or belief about, probably. Otherwise, we just wouldn't choose to keep them in our life, right? Like the nature of it is like the nature of this defense mechanism is that we are seeking people that we can project onto, like subconsciously, of course. Like, you know, this is all outside of our awareness, but it will come through like neurochemicals and hormones of attraction. It will come through a feeling of like bonding with a friend um, or like resonance with experience or things like that. Um, so, so essentially, if somebody is choosing to have, you know, somebody who is reflecting inaccurate but terrible things maybe to somebody, um, it only works if that person already has some belief about their worth or those terrible things about themselves, right? So it doesn't mean that the mirror is reflecting what is valuable, right, or accurate, but it is a reflection of something that already exists internally. Otherwise, we just move on from the person. We just don't feel a connection. Yeah.
Hmm. I had a funny experience growing up. My dad, as you know, so at nighttime, he was a musician.
Yeah.
He played the tuba in a Dixieland jazz band. That's how I got inspired to be a musician first and foremost with my dad. And then during the day, he was a carpenter. And he was old school guy. I mean, you know, I'm a second generation immigrant. He was born in Newfoundland, came down here, like had a big beard, grew up in the woods, heated the house with a wood stove. So if he was doing like remodeling in a house, if they were like adding new fixtures or whatever, there's a
Yeah.
pretty good chance that those old fixtures would come and be part of my house.
Hmm.
Well, in the downstairs bathroom, we had this mirror above the sink. And it was what are the ones, the old school ones, you could like open it up
Oh
and put
yeah.
like a medicine cabinet.
Yeah. 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 I
Yeah.
got you.
I mean, it was a really old school one. Like there was a little slot for razor blades. And I learned when I started going to school that mirror, it was distorted. It wasn't like a really good high quality mirror. That's why they were replacing it. It was this kind of distorted mirror. So as a really young boy, like if I would like get up on my little step stool and see myself in the mirror, I was way off.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the only real mirror in the house. And for, I think, I don't know, in my subconscious or whatever, but at some point, like going to school and going to the, you know, the boys' room at school or, you know, somewhere else and seeing a mirror being like, wait, why was the improper, what's going on? Your mirror's broke. No. Like, yeah. Like everything was like a little bit off in my face.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Because the reflection was like this inaccurate reflection of what's going on. You know, essentially the opposite of a skinny mirror.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
You know,
Got
like
it.
you go to a haunted house, they have like the fun house.
Oh,
mirror,
yeah, yeah.
Like you look weird. Like you have to kind of, you know, my greater point. You have to make sure that you're looking in the proper mirror, in the proper person, in the proper, like, is the reflection you're getting actually like a tangible, real thing that can improve what you're trying to do and not be a detriment.
That is 100% true. And I would love to add something to it. In order to, one thing that helps us choose those accurate mirrors is by going inward first and working with our belief systems about ourselves, right? And that might even be done by looking at ourselves in a mirror in a yoga studio or you know, whatever, right? Or having a therapist or friend who can be can honestly like reflect things to us with compassion and understanding and empathy and curiosity, and create that safe space to be to be explored. That I think can that ends up being a better compass of this person's going to be a good mirror, or skinny mirror over here, or altered mirror over there. Like our radar just starts to feel it, because we start to experience like dissonance when we are with them, right? Like right now, if for example, like if I believe that I'm the worst person in the world and am a terrible therapist and a bad podcast, whatever, chances are, no matter how much you or anybody told me that I was a good one, that mirror isn't actually reflecting anything. Like that's not getting in, right? That's why just like positive affirmations by themselves, like they're only because that's in the form of language, it's only working with that 3 to 5% of conscious mind, right? Yep. You have like so much, 95% of that not sinking in, right? Which is why we can set a New Year's resolution and be like, why can't I do this thing? Or like, why can't I stick with it? Or what? It's about the belief systems underneath. And so like really getting in there, and making those shifts give us a much better compass for it. But certainly not easy work. But it's doable when you have somebody that that can kind of safely guide you with that soft touch.
Yeah, that ties into the other episode that we did, The Weight of Words. If you guys haven't seen The Weight of Words, like go watch it, go binge it, subscribe to our channel, find us Spotify, iTunes, we're all over the map, Instagram. Yeah, having that, because that's where like the words that we use trying to really directly affect all of that high percentage of subconscious stuff. Yeah, the words that we say and the visions that we have, from the reflections and all of that. Yeah.
Hey, what do you think about, we've had our podcast going for a little while. We've recorded, a bunch of episodes, and we actually have some people leaving comments these days. And how would you feel about every once in a while choosing a positive rating to read?
I mean, yeah. We can also do the negative ratings.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's true. Like if you're not feeling it, you can let us know. And but we definitely want to hear from you if you are feeling it.
Yeah, do you got some up there that aren't family?
That aren't family. Yes. Let me find where the ratings are. All right, so here we go. This is from Fermentress. Thank you, Fermentress, for our 5-star.
Spotify?
No, this is on Apple. Yeah. Inspiring and entertaining. So she says, these hosts offer their life experiences and reflections and relatable and engaging content. Appreciate that.
Wow.
You get to experience their conscious communication within their friendship, which happens to be filled with gold nuggets of thought-provoking perspective. Great insight on the way that we can all shift our thoughts and responses to life's discomforts and challenges. I dig it.
I wrote that.
No, you didn't.
No, I didn't write that.
I know.
I mean, that's really great.
Yeah.
Wow.
We appreciate Fermentress.
Fermentress?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful name, Fermentress.
Yeah. So just want to let people know that we really appreciate you listening. We appreciate you leaving ratings. We appreciate you sharing episodes with your friends. We're out here trying to, level up ourselves and encourage other people to do some of the work to, like we said, easier. No, it's not easy work, but we want to do it with you. So keep putting the word out there. Keep listening to our episodes, and leave your reviews, and we'll read them every once in a while.
That's it for today, you guys. Make sure to follow us. You can find us on all the major platforms. If you really like what you heard, maybe share it with a friend, share it with a buddy, maybe share it with an enemy, because we all need a little bit of love. We're going to level up together. See you next time.